Yeah, I winked at you. Alright, I don't want to get popped for copyright. Lord knows everyone's going after Nirvana now. I don't know if you saw that. The baby from the cover of Nirvana's Nevermind, that was like a iconic album that Nirvana came out with in I want to say it was like 92 maybe. I was in high school, so maybe a freshman when that came out, but actually I was probably younger than that. I was probably middle school. But the baby swimming, naked baby swimming in a pool, and it looks like he's swimming toward a dollar bill in the water. So kind of like a little suggestion about how mankind from birth is chasing the almighty dollar. But I don't know, I love that cover. It's very artistic, but the baby's grown up now, and the baby is suing their Nirvana estate, or Nirvana in general, which is like the Kurt Cobain estate and then the other members of Nirvana at the time, suing them, I think, for like $150,000 each, which isn't a lot. I mean, it's pretty reasonable considering the baby didn't get paid. The parents didn't even get paid to the baby. There was no payout. I don't know if they just stole the photo of the baby, or if it was like the baby's photo was made public and it was just used. Whatever reason, though, the baby should get paid. I mean, that's an iconic album cover, and the baby's likeness was used. So anyway, I have to plug in here because my battery is low on my phone. For some reason, it's been constantly low ever since I looked at some phones on AT&T's website. And tell me that's not some sinister freaking business practice. You go and look at a phone and don't buy one on AT&T's website. For like a week after, your phone battery will constantly deplete out within half a day, where normally my phone battery goes all day strong. And the first time this happened, I didn't think anything of it. I thought maybe I had something running in the background. Whatever, it went away after a week, and I was just like, whatever, and I didn't buy a phone, of course, but I went back on and looked again because my youngest is going to be needing a phone soon, and it did it again for a week, and I thought, there's no way this is not a coincidence. So sure enough, I was looking at a phone the other day again, and now my phone battery, not just mine, but my wife's also, so they've targeted the two main phones on the plan, and now trying to convince you need a new phone by depleting your battery by either busying it up or running apps in the background or bugging it. So, you, AT&T, and Apple, whoever's behind it, you guys are scumbags. I know what you're all about. What are you going to do? Anyway, so we need these phones, I guess. We have to use technology to do whatever. I have to do it for my live videos so I can show you what I'm doing here in the shop. So, Dark Angel Cutlery never rests, even in the face of corporate espionage. We know AT&T's evil. That's not a newsflash. But we're plugged in, and they can't stop us. You can't hold me down. I got to keep on moving. I got a knife that's ready to glue here, and I got my Bob Smith's 15-minute epoxy. I got some 5-minute around here too, but I really like this 15-minute because I don't feel as pushed for time to get this done. And these bottles have been kicking around for a while now, and I want to use them up. I still got half a bottle there going, so I'm going to use up the 15-minute. I got some fresh 5-minute JB Weld in there. I was going to use that, but I was like, you know what, let's use up the 15-minute. I'm not stressed while I'm putting 3 pins in, because I have 3 pins here, and 2 of which are mosaics, and 1 is a hollowed lanyard pin, which is pretty cool. The first is this, it's a 1/4 inch mosaic, and I don't know if you can see that. It's really hard to get these to pop up on video here. So it's kind of a, my screen looks really soft in here today, but it's a square mosaic. In the center, it's a square that has some small beads around the outside. Whatever. The video sucks in here. That's probably AT&T screwing my video quality. Who knows? So that one is going in. And then I've got obviously, my Dark Angel mosaic. If you can see that. And then we have a simple hollow lanyard tube. So these are thin-walled, this one. I got the thicker walled ones too, and I like the thicker wall, but these thin wall ones do pretty good. They go in easy. You can't really bang on them too much because they'll mush out and malform. But that thinner wall allows for more tube lanyard material to go through the hole, so it makes the hole a little bit bigger when the wall is thinner. If I have thicker walls, then the hole's a lot smaller. It's harder to get a big piece of leather or a heavier lanyard through there, and I like using a piece of like scrap furniture leather because it's more of a soft, kind of stretchy, highly finished leather. And I put just enough in there, probably about 8 inches, fold it over, and then put a bead on there. And it's just more of a grab lanyard. It's not a full wrist lanyard. If this was a large Bowie or a heavy chopper, I would do a full wrist lanyard to be able to, you know, slide the bead down and put it tight around your wrist. But if it's just a hunting knife or an EDC, it's to get it out of the sheath. It's if you go to make a grab at a handle, especially if it's a wet form sheath and it comes up really high on the blade handle and there's not a lot of grab onto that blade, that little lanyard hanging out is a little pull tie. It's a little something to grab onto and tug it up out of the sheath, get it loose, and then you can grab at the handle once it's out. So this knife is a slotted guard, like the slotted guard Wharncliffe knife that I finished, only this is a clip point. This is not a full flat grind. It is a flat grind, but it only comes back about 2/3 of the way to the spine. So usually when I'm doing a beveled knife or doing the bevels for a blade, I don't always come all the way to the back, unless it's full flat grind. So if I'm doing a flat grind, I usually come, my rule is 2/3. That's my personal preference for how far my bevels go back. I've seen people come back with, and they call it a Scandi grind, where the bevels don't come back that far. It's maybe a third. I've even seen people try to pull off a quarter, and it just looks like shit. It just looks like you didn't take the time to grind down your bevels. Excuse my French, but you have to take the time to grind your bevels properly. If you're going at too great of a pitch, you're going to make your bevel shorter. You want to have a less of a pitch, and you want to grind it nice and flat and walk that bevel right back. Take your time with it, do it right, or it'll look like shit. So, anyway, we're going to glue up. This one looks great. You'll find out once we do the reveal and we unwrap that tape. But we have some really beautiful curly maple, and I'm sorry I don't remember who I got this curly maple from. He's a buddy on Instagram. I will link him at some point. But curly maple is just gorgeous. And this is dyed blue, so it's fantastic. I do have a little chip there from where I super glued this to the tang, but it's a thick handle, so I'm not worried about it. I even sized that chip, or the depth of that handle where the chip is, and it doesn't sit as high as the guard, so I'm fine, and I'll show you what I mean. So I put my handles on, and these have all been prep fitted up, but you see that chip isn't higher or isn't lower than the guard. So that's the key. The handles are going to be lower than the guard because they're going to taper in. So we're good. Yeah, I fitted these all up. The pins are pretty snug, so I'm not going to pound these all in again and force them out with a wrench again. So we're going to do that on the fly. These are tight. They're tight pins. So I don't know. Maybe I should take a little bit more off and loosen them up more. I'm kind of on the fence with that, but they look good. The handles look good. It's going to be a great looking knife. So slotted guard, curly maple in blue, just going to be a gorgeous knife. So yeah, kind of tight on that mosaic at least. Maybe I'll kick on my my 1x30 and just slim this pin down the littlest bit. I don't want to get into a fighting match with the pin. Going through the handle after the fact, you know what I mean? So it's pretty snug. I'm going to at least loosen that one up. I do recall that my mosaic went in nice and easy. So we'll just glide that one in a bit. Make sure we're not fighting resistance on that, and we're good. So our mosaic is going to be in there, giving it some structure and support. And then, of course, we have the tubular lanyard is going to be down below here as well. All right, that one's being snug now too. So maybe I just need to take these handles and kind of widen out my 1/4 inch pins. You know, that could be the fact too. Effect of the meta. Because like I said, the other one's fine. Yep. Yeah, the tubular one's a little tight in there too, so let me just go over to the drill press real quick. And we will widen these babies up just ever so slightly. I think we'd be better off too. I don't want to go eating my pins down and making my pins smaller, because then I end up with an issue of having, especially on a mosaic, you don't want to make the wall of the pin too thin, because the center material is not quite as strong as the outer wall. You know what I mean? That's just ABS plastic fill around your mosaic. The tube itself is what gives it its strength and its structure. So we don't want to mess with that, but we do want to open up the gate on these 1/4 inch pins. So I'm going to do that. I don't want to open these up too big. You end up opening up these holes too much, and you have pins sliding out of there, not really holding it together. You know what I mean? Pins got to be snug. I mean, you got glue on the pins too; they're going to help, but we don't want to rely just on the glue. You want the snugness of the pin to hold those handles on as well. I think that's critical. That those pins have a little strength there holding it. So let's see what we got here now. All right. So we want these handles on nice and firm. There's one. Okay, that's going to be a bit easier. Alright, we're alright. I'm going to flip my handles open. I know I've got my inside of my handles out and exposed. That's where the glue is going to go. Don't screw that up either. And then I'm going to bust out with my Bob Smith's mid-cure 15-minute epoxy. Doesn't matter which one you put in first. Mix your two parts together, 50-50, and then swirl them together. Spend a good 15-20 seconds swirling these epoxies together and make sure they're really mixed well. So I do like, it's kind of, there's no real science to measuring this. I get 2 big globs out for a mid-size knife handle like this. Well, this is a full-size handle, so 2 big globs of each part come out of each tube, which is 50-50. And I don't really have an exact science to measuring it. Like I said, it's just drip it out, big gobs. And always the hardener is a lot slower to drip than the epoxy itself. So when you drip this out, it's not going to drip out the same way. You got to kind of estimate with your eyes how big those globs are. You really want to try to stay as close to possible with this. It is an exact science, but it's not. So that glob's really small. I'm going to get a big one, and then another mid-sized one here. There we go. So that looks pretty good. And right away, you can see that epoxy hit. The hardener on this Bob Smith stuff is a little darker than the epoxy itself. So you can see the 2 globs mixed together. That second one, the hardener hits, and it starts changing the color of the overall mixture. And you can see it in there. It's a little yellowish. It almost looks like spooge. So start mixing that. You'll see the colors blend together really well. Everything will kind of turn that yellowish of the hardener. This hardener is getting a little bit older. That's probably why it's starting to turn yellow. It was a little bit more opaque when I first got it. So this hardener is this glue is about a year old now. So you do got to watch the lifespan on these glues. I don't know if it's listed on the safety data sheet for these glues. Any chemicals you use in your shop will have an MDS sheet or a safety data sheet. It has all the specs on the chemicals you're using, the warnings, the lifespan of the chemical before it starts to break down. But I've never really paid much attention to glues. They always get used before they go bad for me. But I have seen some dry up and have thrown some out before they've dried up. But that's more because I left it open. Okay, so it's starting to thicken up. I know I'm well mixed. I've got to get this together now because I'm against the clock. We're going to span this across both handle scales, and we're going to hit the top because this is a slotted guard. Those handle scales are going to sit against the inside of that guard. Now, the only thing I don't have out here that I need, that I did not grab, is a little bit of Simple Green, because we want to make sure that we can wash the the face of that guard off after we have all our glue on and our handles set into place, because we don't want glue to get on that guard and start hardening, because the guard's finished. I mean, I can always sand the guard down a little bit, but it's easier to keep it clean and just be mindful of what I'm doing here. So, and I don't need a lot of glue, just enough. It'll start to ooze out of the handles a little bit. The blade's well taped, so I know my blade's going to be good and clean. You can already see some ooze coming out there. And hold it up against the light and kind of see that your pins are lined up. Looks good. And then we'll start setting those pins through the first side, and that will help me guide them through. I'm not going to do the middle one, which is the mosaic, first. So these are just going to be a little bit through, and now you can see they're poking out on the other side of the tang. Now I can take my other handle scale and rest that in there. You know, I've got way too much glue at the top here, so I'm going to kind of peel that off a little bit. Alright, looks pretty damn good. Now I want to make sure I get a little bit of epoxy in where my, actually it looks pretty good. Normally I'll epoxy these pins up too, but these holes look pretty wet with epoxy going in. I don't want to get a lot of epoxy on the outside of my handles because that'll make them messy. But I do want the holes to be wet with epoxy, so when the pins slide through, the pins are getting glue on them as well. I am going to expand these hollow lanyard pins. The other way, if you do get them through and you don't have a lot of glue on there, you can get glue on them, like so. And then kick them back and through a couple times, and that'll swoosh the glue through on those pins, especially if you're, you know, pulled one like me and you got your holes a little wider than your pins. You don't really want to do that too much, but I did flare these out the littlest bit, so I'm going to get a little extra epoxy in there. And like I said, we're going to expand that lanyard tube into that hole a little bit too. And now we can get our pin in. I want to make sure my logo is on the side I want. And then I'm going to send that pin through in the right direction. I'm going to make sure I turn it a little bit. Good. Alright. I think that looks pretty good. A little bit of glue mess on here, but that's okay. Alright, that looks good. Now we're going to clamp these with some clamps. The nice part about 15-minute epoxy is that we're not in a rush to clamp everything down and get it all in place perfect, because, you know, we don't want to be in a rush. I don't want to be in a rush. But it is still the timely thing. You still want to be moving pretty quickly while you're doing this, even if you know you've got epoxy that sets a little bit longer. Still good to move through it. Alright, looks good too. let's expand this pin a little bit real quick. So I'm gonna do that over on the anvil. You're not gonna be able to see that. So now that that lanyard has been flared, now these handles are gonna be sanded down, obviously, but having the lanyard flared in there nicely, I do have a simple green right here. Good. Having the lanyard holes flared in there really nice is a good thing. Because even if we're going to sand it down, they are expanded to a certain point where we can just sand them down. But even the hole where it was, the handles were dished out a little bit, we're going to sand it below that too. It doesn't really matter so much that they're flared down, but it is locking the handle down in a mechanical way tight. You know what I mean? It's tight to the tang now. So, you know, I can go and clamp this. Run that lanyard pin with one of these C-clamps. It's really not going to make a huge difference because it's been expanded around it. Either way, we're gonna clamp it. That's what we do. Clamp it right around that mosaic too, just below it. Just give this a nice snug hold. Our other one's nice and snug as well. And that looks good. These handles are solid, man. Solid looking handles. All right. Now this is watered down simple green. Unfortunately, I don't have a good solid concentrate here, but we're gonna wipe off with this old dirty ass rag. We're gonna wipe off any excess glue from our guard, from our tang area. Make sure our blade is clean. Now, most of the blade is taped up here, but we sprayed this, and I don't want to leave any moisture on it sitting here while this is gluing, because that would rust the blade. And you know, it's not going to immediately rust from being sprayed, but this is high carbon steel, and high carbon steel can rust. It does oxidize or rust, and we don't want to leave any excess moisture sitting on it, because that would just be stupid. All right, so we're pretty well wiped up. This rag is toast because there's lots of glue on it. Now you get to see how messy a glue job is, or can be, especially with Dark Angel Dan. We got a little bit of spoogey glue out on there, but not a lot. It's actually not bad. This was a pretty good glue job. I'm not gonna knock my work, because this was okay. We've had much worse glue jobs. So the only problem I had with this build that went a little outside of my spec or my design was at the front of the handle, where it kind of, the base of the handle at the front kind of swoops down forward, and it widens at the base of the handle. And it widened pretty dramatic. And I liked that, but I'm not mad about what happened. So the handles got moved out a little bit, or in a little bit. So the tang is actually a little further out than the handles, so the handle's going to taper a little bit on the bottom and the front. And I kind of like that. I'm glad, because it's a little bit of a variation in the design. I wanted this knife to be a little bit different than the other, because there is a second clip point just like this, but it's a full flat grind where the bevels come back further. The handle was the same. Now it's not. So this handle has its variation. Because I do each knife individually, they're all a little different. You know, there's always variation. This glue is now setting up. You can see it's very, very hardened. It's almost peeling up in a sheet. So the whole clump is coming out. That's 15-minute cure. You know, we've been here at the glue here for about 15 minutes now. But yeah, it was a good glue job. I'm gonna put one more clamp up at the top. This is pretty much set here, and this feels really, it's solid. The handles are on good and solid. Like I said, I peened that lower pin. I even put a clamp on that, and we got to clamp it about the midpoint here, but we're going to put a clamp at the guard as well. And I'm not going to worry about going too tight with it, but just snug it up a little bit. And that looks pretty good. We got a nice looking mosaic in there. Very nice. We got our Dark Angel mosaic. We got another mosaic in there. It looks very good. And we got a nice looking little hollow lanyard in there. So that's it. We're glued up. We're done. This is a slotted brass guard clip point Brute de Forge in 80 CRV2 with a beautiful, beautiful set of maple. This is figured maple, so it's kind of hard to see that figuring in the light in here, but I promise you it'll just dance in the light once it's sanded up, and you'll see it's gonna be some gorgeous handles. So that's it. I'm done. I don't think I have any watchers anyway, so no, I'm out. I'm gonna close my glue up here, zip this baby up, and then I'm gonna throw out the cup here. I'm gonna take my gloves and I'm gonna slide my nitrile gloves off, or latex gloves, whatever these are. I'm sure they're nitrile. But I'm gonna take this and just break my popsicle stick into it there, and then I fold the cup in. Now this is done. So this is nasty glue, so we're gonna close it up. I'm gonna take the glove and roll it right around it, so it's contained. Got the old shirt as well, so I'm gonna wrap the old shirt. I don't want to get glue on me, so I'm gonna wrap the old shirt around that glove in that little cup with the glue. Now I've got it all in this hand, and we're gonna pull this glove off as well. Look how sweaty that glove is. Fingers out of there, and now we've got it. All our glue mess and our dirty rag that we use to wipe everything off with, you know, all contained. So it just goes in the trash now with the nitrile glove. I have an old cup here from last time. We'll throw this out too, do some cleanup. And then this is just going to dry up here with those clamps on. I'll leave the clamps on as long as possible. Maybe a couple extra spring clamps here and stuff. It can't hurt to put a couple extra clamps on. You know what I mean? If you got clamps sitting around and you're gluing a knife up, put extra clamps on. You know what I mean? It ain't going to hurt. You know, the better you clamp that down, the better bond you have. Sure thing. Okay, I'm done. We'll throw this out in the trash. It's too hot out here for overalls. Overalls is my thing, but I gotta go get comfortable. Let's see what jam is playing before we go. Take my reading glasses off here and flip the hat forward. Dark Angel Cutlery. And the man Dan. It's more than a feeling. Yeah! Alright. It's more than a feeling. Copyright this, Facebook. I think I'm dreaming. It's more than a feeling. I walk away. And I'm out. Dark Angel Dan, peace. Have a good day. Love each other. Treat each day like it's your last, because you never know when it is. Peace.